This conference will now be recorded.
Maybe late.
She's the one that had to get out, so. If you want, we could start with the 2 service agreements. She won't be needed for that.
No.
4.
Four.
Are we doing 4 today or just?
Yeah.
4. Let's start with the 4 service agreements. Anything we need to know on that, or is it just?
I recommend them, and I did have some concerns. We had a phone call with QEI and worked through them. I mean,
Are they just the re-ups from last year? Or the
they're,
last
they
contract?
mostly, they're a little bit different.
Now we have more than one system for them to work on, right?
Yeah. I mean, the reason they're even coming to us is it fell through the cracks. We needed.
It's one of them deals where they send them too early. You know, they sent them to Mark in March, and I think it fell off his radar.
Yeah.
Emailed them on Sunday or something right after the.
It's not like it's something brand new, it's something we've done in the past, just small changes, so.
I would say most of them pay for themselves. We get out of them for what they pay for them.
Now, are we allowed to vote on this at this meeting, or do we?
Yes, it's a
Okay.
special board meeting.
Could I have a motion for the 4
I'll make a
resolutions?
motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes.
Just, I know we did already. There was one that you weren't comfortable with.
I didn't think it,
We
I think
didn't
it was
include
$3,000 and it was a new product they
Is that
had.
included in this?
No. It's
Disaster
just for
recovery, and that's if
everybody
you
cares.
lost both servers, but Mark backs them up. Every 2 months, he keeps one set of thumb drives at his house, another set in the office. That's better than them remoting in and
Mhm.
doing a backup at their site, I felt.
I know we're not allowed to talk about or vote on anything or talk about anything else, but am I allowed to mention what's coming at another board meeting?
Janet generally says no, but she's not on.
Well, we're waiting for Janet. Something that'll be coming up is Greg Borzlary wants to shut down here Cummings Road to set up Saturday for finish.
Shutting this road?
In other words, you'd have to bypass and go up here on Parkside. He just wants that section where the finish is going to be to set up bleachers, tower.
It's normally pretty shut down.
Well,
But he's trying to get.
But it isn't the night before. He's always on the other. This is a Saturday.
Sunday.
It's, I don't see why we wouldn't, but it is one more lane closure for a village that's had a lot of lane closures. But just give it some thought, because we need to get a decision on Monday.
Is this total shutdown or is this one lane?
The total shutdown.
Shutdown on Saturday as well?
He's talking about Saturday.
The whole day, so 7 AM.
Yeah.
To the end of so 48 hours, basically.
Well, he says, he said that, and he said, well, I'd be out of there sometime Sunday morning or Monday morning.
Anita, I see a call. Is that on there?
No.
Janet, is that you?
Yep,
Hi, Janet.
good afternoon.
Okay,
All right.
are we ready to
Know if either Janet was on.
But just things to think about. Okay, so Janet, while we were waiting for you, we already did the service agreement, so we'll go right in. Let Mindy start.
Okay, so we had already, and Janet and I had already talked about the flyers that went out in the electric bills, and those actually are going up today. The girls did a great job and hand stuffed them all. But they offer up a deferred payment agreement for residential customers if they would like to avoid penalties. The governor is now stating that we can impose penalties on people that aren't paying their electric bill, but only if they do not sign up for a deferred payment agreement. And if they default on the deferred payment agreement, then we can charge them penalties again. Or if they come in and show us a actual COVID hardship, then we can't impose penalties and they don't have to sign up for this deferred agreement.
And it's all January 1st.
Yes.
But it doesn't tell us what kind of proof they have to bring in to show that they can't pay because of COVID.
Right.
The other thing that's not 100% clear is if they default on the deferred payment program, can you retroactively impose penalties or is it only going forward?
I don't, NICOM's I can find out from Nikon. Nikon's update that they sent out didn't clarify that. It just stated that if they defaulted, that we could start imposing penalties again.
Yeah, and I didn't see anything which clarified that either.
Yeah, so I can ask their attorneys and see what they have to say. I'm assuming based upon what has gone on thus far, they're not gonna let us impose back penalties on them. But as far as what qualifies as COVID related, I don't know. If it's gonna be the same as it is for, businesses, if they lost business, or I would assume proof that this is only for residential, that they lost the job, I think. I don't
So
know.
are they gonna get one bill for the arrears and one for the normal?
No,
It's just all in one bill?
all in one
And
bill.
it states arrears or it states?
Well, right now, when the bills go out, it has your arrears and then it has your actual balance. We can set up contracts on everyone's bills that show the amount due in arrears. It'll give the
Separate line
total,
from the
yes,
due line.
separate line item.
It's gonna keep accumulating as they don't pay their bill.
Correct.
So here's a thought is, if somebody comes in and they say they were laid off due to COVID but then they were collecting unemployment that was more than they were making because they're getting the additional amount. Do we have to just say, okay, you were laid off and due to COVID and lack of business from your employer, and we just accept that, I guess?
I believe so.
Or were they offered their job back?
Well, and that's the thing too. Peter, you probably run into it. Did you call all your people back?
They don't show up. Unemployment doesn't make them work. Unemployment. does not make
Unemployment
them-
is still paying them
Does
even
not make
though,
them look for work. And Vermont, they just changed that a couple weeks ago, not New York
Mhm.
State. That's why we couldn't get.
But isn't it true if they've been offered a job that's similar or the same as the one that they were laid off from, they have to,
No.
and they don't take it, that disqualifies them from
Not anymore.
unemployment?
State of emergency has been started.
Oh,
They
okay.
can claim that they're afraid of COVID, which is quite the BS at this point.
Mhm.
All right, well, it is what it is, and hopefully the state of emergency will be lifted here shortly, and this will all go away after an additional period of time.
Everything that I've heard from the state thus far says going until December 31st.
Wait till I heard the season over.
It does say in the updated moratorium that whenever the state of emergency is lifted or December 31st, but I've spoken with 3 different people who do the electric accounting that have had conversations with the state, and everybody says December 31st. So I don't see it happening prior to that.
So we have to come up with what the payment plan would be. So, because as I understand it, if they sign up for the deferred payment form, we have the right to say that they have to pay either an amount or a percentage of the arrears and be current on their current bill.
Yes.
So I think the question for the board is, what level do you want to make for do they have to pay a minimum of some amount on the arrears? Do they have to pay a percentage every month of their arrears?
Could be over a 12-month period or pick a number.
Well, it's as long as this lasts, it goes away after.
Pay the balance as soon as the state of emergencies, whatever the
No, they've
agreement
got
is.
6 months after that.
Yeah, they've got 180 days after that.
But they also have to keep current with their current bill.
Mhm.
Correct.
arrears.
So let's say I'm $100 in arrears. I sign up for this and I get my bill in July. I have to pay my July bill and then I have to pay whatever amount of the arrears that the board sets as the policy. It could be a dollar amount or it could be a percentage of the arrears. So for example, let's say I'm $100 in arrears, and I get my July bill. I have to pay my July bill, and if our policy is, and I have to pay $25 towards my arrears, then I'd have to pay my July bill plus $25. Or you could say, you have to pay your current bill. Okay, so I have to pay the July bill and 50% of my arrears. So you can do it as a percentage or a dollar amount.
If we go from
we-
300 to 30, what do you say?
4,600.
4,600, it's got to be a percentage of the total.
What percentage? Yeah.
Well, I think a percentage of the total makes sense, but I would also think you'd want a minimum they have to pay.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the other thing to consider too is, okay, so say we do put 10% out on the floor. So you owe $300, you pay your 10%, $30. You owe $5,000, you pay 10%, $500. But if you owe $5,000, what are the odds that you're actually going to sign up for a deferred agreement? You're going to let the penalties incur, because at this point you're so far in the hole.
But are
That
they
you can't
retail
get out.
stores or are they stores?
Oh no, these are residential.
And I think it's important too, we want to set these people up to get out of the hole.
Yeah.
So it's got to be a high enough percent where you're not like just.
Well, Art and I had originally, we were chatting about it, and so if we started today, which is not gonna happen, but if we started today and went until June of next year, because that's essentially when we're gonna be able to shut off again, 12 months. So if we did 1/12 of whatever they owe for the next 12 months, they would be caught up by the time shut-offs roll around. 1/12 of $5,000 is less than 10%, about 8%.
But then
6 to 1 half.
what happens when they don't make the payment on the current bill?
They go back into
Then you
arrears.
can get penalized.
Well, they
And they
get,
get-
And then they get penalized.
Yeah.
And what's the interest rate? 18?
For the year.
So,
Year and a half.
Mindy, what's the median arrears right now?
I would say $600 to $700.
Okay, so 8% of $600 is $48.
Right.
That's that you think is the median.
I
Okay.
mean, we have 179 people currently in arrears. 40 of them, the last time I checked, were over $1,000. But because our electric bills are so low, I have somebody on there that hasn't paid since August of 2019, and he owes $336. But he uses the minimal amount of electricity. We have a lot of people that use the minimal amount of electricity because they're in an apartment building. They're just not paying their bills. It's the bigger homes or the homes that heat with electricity that are really in the hole. So.
And I think if somebody owes $100, for example, a really low amount, and you're only charging them about 8%, you don't want to just get $8. I would think you'd have a minimum of 25 or something like that. You really want to get $5, $10, $15? I would think
The
it
problem
should
with
be some percentage, but a minimum of something.
8% comes off 1 month, and then if they do 8% the next month, you're not going to pay that off in 12 months. It's going to be
Right.
like 3 years before somebody pays that.
Well, the 8% is at the beginning when they sign the contract, that's what they pay every month.
The fixed amount.
Yeah, it's a fixed dollar amount. So it's not 8% of the lower. It's we would take 8% of the arrears
every single month.
every single month.
And you keep up your payments.
Yeah.
Yes.
But are you gonna do it as a declining balance, or is it gonna be 8% of the starting point every month?
8% starting point.
gives you-
So
Okay,
8% would give us whatever their monthly payment is gonna be for the next 12 months.
Yeah, there's a
Gotcha.
line, but takes the amount.
Right.
All right, so what did we decide on? 12%, 8%, or 10%, or with the $25?
8% would break us out for 12 months.
Do you want to just divide by 12, make those payments, or what do you think?
Oh, yeah.
Sure, but I understand it's $25 as well.
In other words,
So
either divide it by
12
12 or
equal
a minimum of
payments
25.
for a minimum of $25 a month. Whichever is more.
Okay, the question is, after the state of emergency goes away, which is supposedly June 20th or something,
It keeps getting pushed.
They
It
keep
just got
pushing it
pushed
back,
again
yeah.
September.
I mean, New York City didn't have one bit. Yeah.
Nope.
It's about time to end this.
But-
Um,
so you're using the 1/12 based on the fact that you think the state of emergency isn't going to be eliminated until the end of the year, and then you've got the extra 6 months. But if they eliminate the state of emergency earlier, then are we shooting ourselves in the foot using the 1/12?
Not necessarily, because at that point, yes, those certain people will have deferred payment agreements, but everybody else who didn't sign up for it is gonna get shut off if they don't pay April 1st or April 15th.
Okay.
10 months, though.
You know,
And anyone that doesn't, we're able to charge them interest.
correct.
So,
So,
Unless they can show hardship.
Yeah.
Let Peter decide.
No hardship.
Well,
We got
and
it.
actually, if they don't enter into a deferred payment agreement, can't we shut them off in May?
no, because it still falls within, I mean, if the state of emergency is lifted, then yes.
So
But
if
as
the
long-
state of emergency goes away December 31st, somebody has not entered into a deferred payment agreement, we can shut them off, I think it's in April or May, right?
April 15th.
If they haven't, no, if they haven't entered into a deferred payment agreement, state of emergency ends December 31st, we can't shut them off until June,
June, why June?
6 months, 180 days.
No, but if they haven't entered into the deferred payment program, why can't, I thought we could shut them off when we can normally shut them off.
Wait,
Well, it
say that
doesn't
one-
matter. We can, normally we can't shut anybody off during heating season.
Correct.
So,
So April 15th is our first, normally it
Right.
would be our first shut off.
right.
Now, if the state of emergency ends next month and the 6 months has passed, then yes, on April 15th, we can start shutting people off.
Okay.
But if it prolongs until December 31st, then we're looking at June before we can do any shut offs.
Okay, all right.
Actually, July, be June 30th.
What's everybody's pleasure? Divide by 12, minimum 25,
Sounds great.
and then you'll have Mindy just decide what hardship is, or somehow there must be some recommendation.
Oh, I get to decide. Oh,
No, but I
my
mean, there
God.
must be some guidelines that they're putting this
I'll
out.
ask Nikon. with that.
So
See
can
you
I've got some questions on the deferred payment agreement form.
Okay.
So,
My fault if it's wrong, it's Messina's because I took it from them.
yeah, no, that's fine, but I think some of the terms are inconsistent because
Okay.
it's the deferred payment agreement form, but then it's also referred to as this budget payment. Well, we're not asking people to do budget payment, like we do with some other, we do have budget plans, I think, where some people do pay. And so they build up a credit and then, in the high usage months, they have a credit. I'm questioning whether we really want to call it a budget payment. I think we call it deferred payment.
Yeah, it's a separate line action on the bottom. So this could be used for either or. They could sign up for a deferred payment agreement, or if they'd like to set up budget billing, they can do that too.
Yeah, because I did see that budget billing option, but I think how payment is, but maybe those are two separate thoughts. Because
they are.
we want to have, if people want to do a budget plan, that they can do. Anybody can do a budget plan, I think. But this
Yeah.
deferred payment plan, we want to make sure that that's what it's called, a deferred payment, so that if they miss it, it's clear. Then we can add the penalties. Because to me, the budget billing is a volunteer plan that people go on. The deferred payment plan that we're setting up is, once you're in it, it's mandatory. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Because budget billing to me is, and I think we do have some people that try to pay sort of a certain amount every month, and as I said, they build up credits so they don't get hammered in some of the higher usage and higher bill months. So to me, a budget plan is a volunteer plan. The deferred payment, yes, you're volunteering for it, but if you screw up, you get penalties. The budget plan would be different.
Right.
So I think they're two separate forms, and I think to keep it clean, we have the deferred payment agreement form is one, and doesn't talk about budget billing. It talks about just the deferred payment. Do 100% and totally only to the state of emergency. But a budget plan, anybody can enter into at any time, state of emergency or not.
Didn't these go out already?
Yeah, but we included it so people saw what was available, but once we get the dollar amounts, we'll send it out with the dollar amounts. These aren't the ones they have to fill out and send in. So we take care of it.
So I would suggest under that how payment is to be made, budget payment, I would call that deferred payment. But
Okay.
that's, and you know, we can talk about that, but I mean, what does everybody else think?
Fine by me. Like I said, this is our first go around. And I got it from Cena because I had never seen one in our possession before. So, I'm fine with.
We did this in 15, when it was so cold that winter.
Mhm.
PPA was so high. I don't even know if they had a form. We let people pay over 3 months. Oh, no. We spread it out over 3 months. The extra.
Oh,
PPA.
the extra PPA. Yeah.
That's right.
Yes, I do recall. I wasn't here for it, but I've seen the figures on it.
Mindy, when would these go out? Is getting allowing people, or will people be able to make the payment by June 30th? Or, are we giving them enough time is my question.
Well, the flyers and a copy of this, not the actual, and you'll see it in your electric bill because they all went out because we didn't catch, the flyer said that a copy would be enclosed. People aren't gonna, I can't see people filling it out and sending it in. They're gonna call us or come in and say, how do I do this? But they were stuffed in manually, hand stuffed into the bills last night and today.
Into everybody's bills,
Into everybody's bills.
not just the ones that have the arrears.
Right.
Yeah.
We had to send it out to
It
everybody.
It doesn't have a dollar.
No. So it was just for people to see where the options were, and then we would add in the dollars at a different time.
So your phone's going to be ringing a lot tomorrow.
Yeah, which is normal. Megan likes to talk, and now we have Heather, so Heather's gonna learn how to talk. Okay.
What you're saying is you're not the one answering the phone.
Oh, no, they'll end up coming to me, don't worry. So Well, I
When
do.
They start yelling.
Of course. What do you mean I have to? The reason we had to send it out to everybody is because it has the re-levy on it as well, and we put it on the bottom of our bills, because normally we re-levy at the end of this month. We're still gonna re-levy sewer, but we can't re-levy water. We had to make people aware of it, so it had to go out prior to. That way, anybody who lets it go onto their taxes knew that it's not gonna show up on their taxes. And they should really come in and pay it. We've been getting yelled at since Sharon left, because Sharon used people to let them know they had to pay their bill, and we're not doing that now, so they don't like it when we go to shut them off. Case in point, Mr. Planning. I guess he wasn't too happy when you guys showed up to close electric.
That was one of the.
Well, I think a lot of people aren't going to understand the electric, and they aren't going to understand the water or the sewer.
I don't know how many of them will even get back, to be honest with you, because the people that aren't paying because they know they don't have to pay. And
Some of them.
yeah, but I don't think they're gonna care if they have fees, because they know they're not gonna get shut off. The ability to shut off is where we get our money back.
So all this really does is allow us to charge interest while they choose not to pay.
Yep.
But at least that's something.
Yeah,
How many electric customers that are in arrears do you think are tenants? So because you can never re-levy electric bills, and if a tenant leaves, too bad for us.
we send them to collections at that point. I would have to look. I'd say a good 25% of them, if not 30%, are all tenants.
Yeah.
See that? A lot of, if anything's like the water and sewer, a lot of those people can afford to pay it. So,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people let it go on their taxes because they know that their escrow is gonna pick it up. And they don't worry about it, but, yeah, the electric's a whole different ballgame. And we do have, I think, 4 or 5 accounts that are in arrears that are business names that we can't shut off because they're apartment buildings, and the tenants aren't paying the landlord, so we can't shut them off. So the landlord's not paying us. We did shut them off, but we turned them right back on. Once we
And this
found
is
out.
only for residential customers.
Yes. I mean, if somebody who has a water sewer account would like to sign up for one, we can do that too, but our main focus is electric at this point.
So, back to where we began.
Okay.
Either go
So get
one-
rid of the budget billing, change budget to deferred, and
Divide by 12, minimum payment of.
25 plus current.
Any more discussion?
25 or the 1/12, whichever is more.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, that's the motion. Make the motion, what Mindy said.
I'll second.
What she said. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Motion to adjourn. We can't talk about anything anyhow, right?
Right.
Second.
Third. All in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
Thank you all. Thank you, Janet.
Janet, I will enclose my, what you recommended. Anita's looking
This conference will now be recorded.